Stein, our member, who is here as well. We have 5 items. Number 1, if we could, I would move to receive and file. This is the HR 5140 Economic Stimulus Package. Any objection?
No objection.
Received and filed. We have before us, do we have any speaker cards? Number 3, okay. We'll call number 3 special for cards. On number 4, does anybody wish to speak on 4?
With the Protective League is here, we should hear from them, and the fire department's here.
Are you happy to win without speaking?
Are you happy if we are leaning, I don't want to give it away, but if we're leaning towards yes and we wind up being there? Fire department, okay? Yeah, all right. So I would move the CLA report to move forward on AB 2737 FUR, the protection of officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel from Contracted Communicable Diseases Act.
And if I could just make sure the record is clear that this is a correction, that it is AB 2737.
Yes, absolutely. We want to make sure that number is right. So without objection, thank you to our public safety professionals, our representatives of Assemblymember Fuhr. I think you should just get a permanent seat here, as Mr. Fuhr's deputy. With that, let's take up 2.
Item 2 is the CLA report relative to the city's position on HR 76 BACA, which urges the establishment of a national holiday for Cesar E. Chavez pursuant to Resolution Alarcon et al. And we have Clay from the CLA's office, who's fresh to this committee, his first time here.
Welcome.
Good morning. Good
What's your last
afternoon.
name, Clay?
It's Clay McCarter
McCarter, welcome.
Thank
Where are you
you.
coming from?
from Camarillo, actually.
Great, very
Yeah.
When
good.
did they release you?
This is Councilman Stein, welcome.
Rim shot not included.
Yeah.
Quite a few people in there.
He's also known as
Never
Showbiz.
heard that line in Camarillo.
Never. Do you know about the history there?
Yes, I do, yeah. That's now the Cal State
University.
University. I've actually been there. It's a nice facility.
Very
Did
good.
release you.
All right,
Going back to the agenda.
give us your report.
Well, HR 76 urges the Congress and the President to establish a holiday in honor of Cesar Chavez. It also urges public elementary and secondary schools to provide classroom instruction on the life and work of Cesar Chavez. If you have any further questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Well, you're starting strong. We have California law, obviously, and city law that moves towards this and recognizes it in some cases here, so I think we've obviously been on the record. Is there anybody wishes to ask any questions about this?
There was a mass last Sunday at Our Lady Queen of the Angels celebrating the life of Cesar Chavez, so the Catholic Church is making recognition and honoring also.
Oh, great.
A number of farm workers,
Very good.
and Marilyn DeRosa was there, so I support this, and since we're already on board for the city,
Okay.
it creates the environment. How many states have this now?
California is one of 9 that has...
9 states?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you name them?
Long way to
I
go.
can.
Without the paper.
Did I let
Without
it down?
the paper. Let's see here.
Ethics
One-
Commission's watching, so we want to make sure you study
Okay.
your-
Oh, here it is. Oh, I see it. It's in
California,
the resolution.
Arizona,
Uh-huh.
Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, Michigan, Illinois, and Wisconsin.
There you go.
Arizona. I find
All
that
right.
interesting.
Yep. Had some problems with it, recognizing the King holiday for a long time there, but
Yeah.
they got out in front on Chavez, so
Very good.
penance. All right, with that, unless
Well, it's the
Mr.
first
Weiss
time
would
you
like to
got it.
add
Wait,
anything?
It's his first
All
time,
for
you
it.
got to grill him a little more. don't
That's
you?
right. Oh, well, any last questions?
No, you're the chair.
Okay. Pretty good, but we expect to see a little better next time.
Okay. Thank
With
you.
that, we'll go ahead and move it forward. Welcome aboard. Good to have you here. Next item, please.
Item 3 is the CLA report relative to the city's position on the California Property Owners and Farmland Protection Act.
Yes, I saw the ads on the No on 98 stuff already. Please,
It's very
go ahead.
confusing.
Good morning, or afternoon, excuse me, Meg Barkley with the CLA's office. We have prepared a report relative to a resolution, Garcetti Parks, to oppose Proposition 98, the California Property Owners and Farmland Protection Act. In addition, we recommend support of Proposition 99, the Homeowners and Private Property Protection Act, which, in addition to narrowly defining eminent domain reform, also includes a provision which, if it is adopted in addition to Proposition 98, would invalidate Proposition 98.
Okay.
I can go
We-
on with the summary of the legislation or take your questions.
Why don't we go ahead and have about a minute on to summarize, and we have some speaker cards, and I know Mr. Zine has some questions, so go ahead. Why don't you
Okay.
give us a quick summary?
Both propositions recommend or would amend the California State Constitution relative to the ability of local governments to exercise the power of eminent domain. Specifically, Proposition 98 would expand the definition of taking to also limit the city's ability to enact and enforce rent control ordinances, and also would, as similar to prior legislation, basically restrict local government's ability to acquire property through eminent domain for economic development purposes, but it goes a little further than previous legislation and also would limit the ability to acquire property through eminent domain for the development of natural resources. Proposition 99 very narrowly would prohibit the acquisition of property of owner-occupied residents or resident properties for the purpose of conveying it to another private owner. And as I
For
stated,
commercial uses or any uses?
I think it would be for commercial uses. Yes. Well, it says a private person, so that would imply that they would be using it for some other
But
private
we don't know
purpose, as
whether.
opposed to a public, a more traditionally defined public benefit.
Okay.
And also would, like as I said before, also creates or has a provision that would invalidate Proposition 99 if both of them are passed and Proposition 98 gets more votes.
Say that last
So
part.
98 would invalidate 99 or vice versa?
Sorry, 98 would invalidate, or 99 would invalidate 98.
98, right.
I apologize,
right.
thank
That
you.
was mine, Right. I assume if you're recommending support of it, okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Why don't you hang out there, Larry Gross? Come forward from the Coalition for Economic Survival, and after that, we'll hear from Bilal Ali. Good afternoon.
Larry Gross, Coalition for Economic Survival.
Oh,
Whoops.
what's that seat? Sorry.
Opposing Proposition 98 is really a no-brainer. It's an out-and-out doomsday measure. If Prop 98 passes, it will have the effect of an economic neutron bomb blowing apart the California socioeconomic fabric. Besides eliminating rent control laws and tenant protections throughout the state, it would also eliminate all eviction protections, condo conversion protections, tenant relocation assistance, and housing code provisions. It would prevent us from addressing affordable housing by outlawing things like inclusionary zoning ordinances. And while its main attack is on renters throughout the state and rent control, the measure could also stop future water projects, destroy local land use planning, erode environmental protections, and eliminate jobs. A broad-based coalition has come together to fight Proposition 98. It includes labor, environmental groups. Just yesterday, the California Labor Federation came out against it. The Metropolitan Water District came out against it. Even the California Chamber of Commerce is against it. This coalition is providing a more sensible and just alternative to eminent domain reform, and that's Proposition 99. We have a tremendous challenge to defeat this catastrophic measure. It's simply not enough just to vote no on Proposition 98. We need the City Council to take a hands-on leadership role in alerting Los Angeles residents that this measure is a disaster, because Proposition 98 is bad for tenants and homeowners, it's bad for seniors and disabled, it's bad for labor and business, it's bad for Los Angeles, and it's bad for California. So we say no on 98, yes on 99, easy to remember, 98 we hate, but 99 is fine. Thank you.
Thank you. I will no doubt go to sleep tonight humming that tune. Bilal Ali is our next speaker. After that is Steve Diaz.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hard act to follow, Larry.
Always.
My name is Bilal Ali. I'm the elections coordinator for Coalition LA. A lot of our constituencies that we represent, organizing low-income tenants, as Larry said, will be devastated by this ordinance. It's basically a bait-and-switch scam. Voters who signed the petition were led to believe that it was only for eminent domain, but as we read it, it's to eliminate rent control and also take power away from the city government. We're here to urge you to adopt this resolution because there's a city that rents are skyrocketing, a lack of affordable housing, no real increases in building affordable housing. Our house is on fire. The city has a distinction of leading the country in the housing crisis. We would like to remove the city out of that distinction. Our house is on fire, ladies and gentlemen. This ballot measure, if it was to pass, is simply throwing more fire on the House. So help us save the House and support it. And I agree with Larry. Not only we're asking for your public stance on this, we're actually, again, to take a leadership role in this, letting your constituency know what's coming down the pike. As we're organizing in the community, we're organizing and coordinating a precinct-wide organizing campaign where we're recruiting people to precinct walk to defeat this measure. We ask you to join us in this effort with your decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ali. Steve Diaz is our next speaker. After that will be Deborah Burton.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Steve Diaz. I'm with the Los Angeles Community Action Network, and today we're here to say we staunchly oppose Proposition 98, and we also are here to staunchly advocate that this committee and the council leadership take a leadership role in passing a resolution against Proposition 98, and also take a public stance against Proposition 98. The Community Action Network has been working to create tenant regulations and help tenants create this chance of equality at residential hotels for over the last 5 to 6 years. If Proposition 98 were to pass, everything that we have worked for, everything that our community has fought for, and everything that our community has been able to gain will now be null and void. We have been fighting constantly and advocating and organizing because we needed to create these regulations so our community had an equal opportunity, an equal playing field. And we're all mostly renters, we're all mostly working class folks that just need an opportunity. And if Proposition 98 were to pass, our opportunities will be gone. So just imagine how that would feel. We once again strongly urge you to pass a public resolution and take a public stand, and urge the mayor of the city of LA to take a public stance against Proposition 98 and create and continue to do what this progressive city council said it was going to do. All the Democrats that are in this committee, all the Democrats that are in the council,
You're a Republican, too, and a Republican.
and a Republican, Mr. Zine,
That's right, I love it.
take a public opportunity to be out there and support the community in Los Angeles, creating equality and creating balance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it, Mr. Diaz. And actually, Mr. Zine and his work on the League of California Cities, just as a point of information, has been working on this issue as a supporter, so we appreciate that bipartisan support. Please, sorry, I just tossed the card. Who was it? It was Deborah? Yeah, Deborah,
Don't
come on
get
up.
excited.
And then it was Eric Green after that.
I don't want to repeat the same thing that you just heard twice. The question I want to ask is, we all talk about homelessness and the housing crisis. With Proposition 98 passes, that would increase more homelessness and would devastate the housing crisis. I mean, you know, there are so many people trying to get into housing, and it's not there. So if you remove rent control, that will make more people be out on the street trying to get housing. We need the support of our elected officials. Many of you have people who are renters. I mean, you protect the renters as well as you protect the people who own property. One shouldn't have more power than the people who do not own property. We need the support of all our elected officials to preserve rent control. This is a rent control state. Let it stay that way. Let everybody have a piece of the pie. Let everybody have housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. Eric Green is our last speaker. Not as, well, it's a different jacket than last time I saw you. I'll just leave it at that.
Gotta keep it varied.
That's right.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Eric Green, and I want to speak today on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union of Southern California to express our support for the Garcetti Parks motion, which would put the city of Los Angeles on record in opposition to Proposition 98. And I'd like to largely echo the very insightful comments of the last speaker. As you know, Los Angeles has more people suffering from homelessness than any other city in America, and in the midst of the worst housing crisis in memory, and in the midst of dire economic circumstances and rising prices for staples like gas and for food, Proposition 98 takes aim at the poor, the vulnerable, and those who are struggling to survive. Put simply, Proposition 98 will guarantee more homelessness. By allowing rents to skyrocket, by eliminating our ability to protect and increase our stock of affordable housing, many of our fellow Angelinos who are barely getting by will be pushed over the edge and onto the streets. We all have a fundamental right to safe, decent, and affordable housing. Many Angelinos already struggle to exist at a subsistence level. They work 2 or 3 jobs just to provide the most meager, basic necessities for their families. Rent stabilization has been a lifeline for the elderly and the working poor, for young families, and for the less fortunate. Proposition 98 would sever that lifeline that many in our community rely upon to live in safety and dignity. We don't want to impose a Sophie's choice on our most vulnerable. We don't want elderly residents to decide between paying skyrocketing housing costs and buying life-saving medicine. We don't want young families to have to choose between rising rent and school supplies for their kids. We don't want more men, women, and children to suffer the depredations of life on the street because they can no longer afford a roof over their head. We don't want to add to the fear, crime, and hopelessness that have already gripped so many in our community. Proposition 98 would additionally threaten the health, safety, and prosperity of our communities by limiting our ability to foster economic development, ensure clean air and safe drinking water, and even to keep liquor stores or adult bookstores away from schools. It may seem that Prop 98 would only impact some, but it will affect all of us. We will all pay the price. We urge you to commit the city to vigorously fighting this proposition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Appreciate it. I will close our public hearing. You know my support because I wrote the piece of legislation on this. Either you'd like to say anything? Sam?
On behalf of California Cities, which is supporting 99, the problem with this is it is very, very confusing. If you read California Property Owners and Farmland Protection Act, you read that title, then you read Homeowners and Private Property Protection Act, and you read 98, 99. When you go to Las Vegas, they got 2 stations, FM 98, FM 99. The highway stations as you cruise to Las Vegas. This is very confusing to the voters, and the concern is when they look at it, one of them is Howard Jarvis Initiative, and his organization has recognition. California Cities on the other side is working to educate the people. And the concern I have is that there'll be a lot of confusion when people go to vote. Is it 98? Is it 99? Property owners, farmland protection. When you look at the title and people don't read the text, they just read the title. So there's going to have to be a lot of education to let them know that it's 99 and not 98 that we're asking them to vote for. If one was 27 and one was 99, it'd be a lot different. But the way they lined them up with the language, the title, and the numbers, I mean, if you flip a coin and ask people on the street which one's which, most people aren't going to know the difference because both of them have that property owners, homeowners, private property protection, farmland protection. John Q. Citizen is going to say, well, property owners, farmland protection, yeah, why not? I mean, it's very deceptive. So if nothing else is done, there's got to be a lot of outreach education about why 99 and the aspects about 99. But I've done a lot of research on this, and I kept on going over and over and over until I finally got it in. 99 is right. Zion in 99, 99, 99, 99. You got a ring to it.
Zion's for 99. That's the new
So, I mean,
slogan.
but the whole outreach, whatever outreach you do, believe me, there'll be confusion with people when they think those numbers because they're so closely aligned and the language, the title is so close. And that's what we discussed at California Cities, is that there'll be a lot of confusion. So there has to be, obviously, the numbers when they go to vote, why they're going to vote for 99, to save rent control, to save the housing versus open up the door. What group, the title of the group behind 98, you have that, the name of the group, other than Howard Jarvis, who's behind 98? I know they talk about apartment owners, but the names of the folks, I couldn't find those. Corporations?
It's in the packet I gave you.
Oh, it's in this packet? As I glanced through it,
The cover letter to the initiative as submitted to the Secretary of State is signed by the California Farm Bureau Federation, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and the Alliance to Protect Private Property Rights.
let's see, when you talk about protecting
But-
private property rights,
In addition to that, I don't know.
it's, people say, yeah, protect it. Anyway, all I can say is education's important on this because of the confusion between those two numbers and the titles. But Legal Cities is on board. They're doing a lot of outreach, a lot of education. So whatever you folks can spread about, like Highway 99, there's no Highway 98. Somehow you got to come up with a buzzword that's going to work, because they're so closely aligned, and the big issue is confusion. And if they are confused, if one wins over the other, or if it's split, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 50-50, because most voters are just going to punch which one sounds right. It's 99, 98. They should have done like Route 66, where you can, I don't know.
All right, we're on the.
Anyway, the bottom
Dennis
line is.
Design riff.
No, the bottom line is, I support 99. It's the right thing to do, but the outreach and the confusion is what concerns me.
Or
That's the big issue.
and our capacity as private individuals on that, but assume you're for the recommendation and for the recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, without objection, we will pass that, and we appreciate everybody's testimony very much. We'll forward that to council and schedule that very soon. Last item, please.
Item number 5, CLA report relative to the city's position on SB 1204 Denham, which amends the Political Reform Act of 1974 to allow electronic filing of Form 700. Clay McCarter is back for additional grilling.
Hello,
All right.
Clay McCarter, CLA.
Hope you've thought long and hard about your last report.
I did. SB 1204 would amend the Political Reform Act of 1974 to allow for the electronic filing of Form 700. And the CLA recommendation is to adopt the resolution from Rosendahl and Garcetti, which calls for support for SB 1204.
And conscious of the budget situation,
Right,
what could we
it's
save here?
Yes, the City Ethics Commission is the facility who takes charge of the Form 700s, and they're spending about $300,000 to $350,000 per year in two analysts and one supervisor to manage the program.
Well, there's
And
a
also
budget cut right there.
Come on forward, Ethics Commission. What would the,
Well, yeah, and thank you. Just gave it 300,000.
how much of your budget is that?
Actually, that's a slight overstatement of
Okay.
what we're currently spending. We basically have, and we may have provided you some numbers
Yeah.
that were not right, so my apologies
That's
for
your
that.
fault.
But if I hear cut in budgets, I have to, I believe we have about 2/3 of an analyst and part-time of a manager. So essentially, we have about a body and a half that would be dealing with the statements that come in as they come in, and it's cyclical. But certainly, spending, bear with me for just a second.
Those are for elected and commissioners too, aren't they?
Therefore, city elected officials, board and commission members, and over 6,000 people in the city. It's city employees as well who make or participate in government decision-making. And that's a state-mandated standard. So there are a number of people in the city who file these annually when they leave office, when they assume office as well. And as the letter that we sent to the CLA's office and are here to support the motion indicates, it would be certainly a much more efficient way to go about doing this requirement than is presently the case. So we're here to support it.
But it's not going to necessarily result in any savings.
Well, no, our experience from electronic filing on campaign statements is that the nature of the work changes. We have people who now are versed in providing technical assistance and more qualitative technical or advice to people when they call. So it frees up the clerical staff. We don't need clerical resources as much as we need people who continue to provide technical advice and guidance on how to comply with the law. So the quality of the work changes. But I think it is still, from my perspective as a manager, there is still a lot of time moving paper around the office and storing paper in places where we would not need to be doing that, and that would be a savings, so that we could do more important core work as opposed to paper pushing.
And I think the paper savings is actually something that the council has acted on in terms of reducing paper use, using double-sided paper. This is eliminating a whole set of paper that 6,000 employees are using.
Well, even if it's non-human costs like that, I mean, that's something I think important. I know
I'd be
you as the
happy to-
general manager have the same task as everybody else this year to try to find credit.
And I would be happy to report back with an update to the committee through a letter of the of a revised dollar amount, so that you know what the savings would actually look like.
As long as you send it electronically. We're fine.
Happy to do that.
Okay.
The League of California Cities is currently watch on this bill, so Mr. Zine may want to see if they're...
Sounds good. We can save some money on it, though.
Okay.
I mean, there'll be definitely paper savings, staff savings.
And the time that it takes filers to do this,
Yes.
if those of you who are filing your taxes
The productivity.
electronically are an indication, it's a much less cumbersome task than having to
They still
do
charge
paper.
the same price to do the taxes, though.
I don't know. Maybe we should start charging people to
You better
do
get your taxes.
Is that germane?
You're
Is
running out of
that,
time.
Mr. City Attorney, is that germane?
I don't think that's
Okay, all right.
related to this
What'd you
issue.
say?
It's not related to
Get
this
your
attorney's
taxes done yet?
All right, so with that, we will go ahead and move that forward.
Insured.
And that is our last item. General public comment? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.